I can see looking back how it shaped me and, for the lack of a better word, inspired me to reach out to particularly women and encourage them that they are worthy and that they are loved and they are accepted. When I was about 6 or 7, I was molested as a child.
Okay. And yeah, and what was that feeling? Can you go back to that time? What was that feeling for you as a young child of 6 or 7? Was it just pure fear?
Look, it was a combination of things. It was fear. It was that I'd done something wrong, guilt, total disbelief. And I think this is where, I suppose I'll be honest here, I think this is where my claustrophobia and anxiety came from.
Okay.
Because I was locked in a wash house.
Right.
And I had no way of getting out because I couldn't reach the lock, so I was a prisoner.
Right.
So, and you're 6 and 7 and, you don't know what's happening to you.
No.
And the voice, my mum's voice came sort of like a trumpet sound, if you like, echoing through the backyard. And
she was looking for you?
She was looking for me.
She
yes.
didn't know where you were?
No, she didn't have, because I was next door in this wash house because the guy had lured me in to go to talk to him about something. Don't know what you're going to talk about with a 6 and 7-year-old, but
yes.
There I was, and the next thing I know is the fear began to rise, and I was feeling physically sick. And if it wasn't for my mum calling, I don't even want to go there to think.
Yeah, what could have happened? What
would have happened? What was about to happen?
What was about to happen? So
yeah.
She actually rescued you. Did you tell her what happened?
No.
Why not?
Because I felt that if I talked about it, that somehow it would be my fault.
Yeah.
And somehow, I don't know, in Italian and Greek households, anytime someone does something wrong and it's not your fault, your parents automatically blame you. They blame you. It's your fault. You must have done something wrong. It's just an automatic reaction.
Yes.
So I kept that as a secret, and I remember running out of that wash house and going through a little alleyway we had at our house and just hiding for many, many, many long minutes and feeling this breath on my face and just reliving it over and over and over and over. And
being terrified?
Terrified. I remember I was feeling like I was choking.
Right.
Feeling that I was overwhelmed. I wanted to cry. I wanted to hide. I didn't know what I wanted to do except not talk about it ever. So I chose to not talk about it ever.
Right. So when you got back to your mum, you just acted as if nothing had happened at all.
I went to my room.
You went to your room?
And pretended I was just lying on my bed, so that if she came looking for me again, it was, oh, you're in your room.
Yes.
But I remember reliving that and reliving that and reliving that constantly.
So would it be, you would have nightmares about that?
I think it affected me initially in the first few days and possibly weeks, but what was left was an imprint on my psyche, if you like.
Yes.
That had made me anxious about being closed in.
Yes. So claustrophobia.
Yes. Set in. And the fear of, strangers, like that fear of seeing someone or meeting someone new that I didn't know. I would always, and still sometimes to this day, I still look at someone and think, what's your intention? What do you want? Although I am able to speak and defend myself now. Back when I was a child, I was very hesitant in meeting people. I would never look them in the eye.
So there was a trust issue there then.
Very much.
You would never trust anyone anymore. So you lost that as a young child, that trust, that special thing that we as children have normally until something like that happens to you. And how many children out there would this have happened to, and they'll have kept it silent.
Yeah, kept it very silent.
Very silent.
And you know, the shame. I mean, what was I to be ashamed of? I didn't do anything. He called me.
You were an innocent child being induced into a circumstance to be taken advantage of by someone who is older and knows better, and still did it to an innocent child.
I think what I found difficult too was the fact that they lived next door and they were related to us.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So I found it difficult that, you know, we would be sitting around a table and eating, and I could not look at that person.
No.
I just would do anything and everything as I was growing up. So got in, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're growing up and you remember everything, and you see that thing, that
vision
replayed constantly. We went to Italy when we were, you know, the obligatory family holiday.
Yes.
That all Italians or Greeks, etc., take their kids on. So we went there, and lo and behold, that person was there.
Really?
And it brought it all up again. And
how old would you have been then?
I was 16.
16.
16
So
16 and a half. Yeah.
Right. So it had sort of settled down for a little while, but then all of a sudden, when you saw him, it just all came rushing back to you. What was that feeling inside you?
Oh, that was anger.
Gut wrenching.
I would have, you know, gone up to him and scratched his face, to be honest. And that's really putting it bluntly. I felt every fibre of my being that I wanted to just go to him and say, why did you do that to me? And take my mother with me and say, tell her what you did to me. But, you know, he had a wife and he had 2 little children.
So what?
And I just, being 16, you know, if I was the person I am now,
yes, you
I
would
would
front
not have
him.
blinked. I would have actually booked the flight and gone there.
Yes.
To confront him. And, you know, being in that situation for about a month and a half, you know, I would do everything and anything to avoid him, because I knew that I couldn't trust myself, because I knew that I would say something to him.
Yes.
And I knew that he knew.
You got that feeling, that gut feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did he sit on tender hooks? Did you think he was sitting on tender hooks while you were around? Or did he care?
Look, he just business as usual. He came and went and did everything, you know, that
just acted like nothing had happened.
Not even. It didn't even ruffle a feather for him.
You wonder. I don't know what I want to say. You wonder what goes through their mind, and you wonder how they can live with themselves when they do that sort of thing to a young child in particular. You know, an adult's bad enough, but a child, an innocent child, taking away that creativity, that happiness, that wonderment, that all those things that a child has, and then something like that happens, and it just takes everything away from you, and you live in fear, as you said. There's anxiety set in, claustrophobia set in. You didn't like to be in closed rooms. You were always feeling anxious, never trusting people.
No.
That is, it's like, what right have they got? What right?
Yeah, and you know, I think a lot of the anger dissipated over the years, particularly, you know, when I finally did tell my mum.
How was it when you told her?
The first thing she said was, "Why didn't you tell me?"
Yes.
And I said, because I was scared. And she kind of took a back step and said, why were you scared of me? I'm your mum. You know, I would have done something about it. It's like, yeah, I know what you would have done. And I was afraid that, you know, what she would have done, and worse, my dad would have done, would have been, it was better just to be silent. If that makes sense.
Yeah, in a way it was better to be silent, but also at the same time, I think those sorts of things need to be brought to the fore, and people have to suffer the consequences of their actions immediately, and not allow a child to go on forever, for a long time, because it not just affects their personality and their well-being, it affects everything in life, because you have that self-doubt, that worthiness, you're not worthy because of whatever happened. There's all sorts of things that go on in someone's mind when that sort of thing happens. And I've had conversations with other women that this has happened to, and it's really interesting. And I'd have women come up to me and start having conversations with me about things that have happened in their life that you sort of go, really? And the consequences of them growing older and the suffering that they've had, and the ability not to grow as a person and shine like us as humans can do, is prevented.
I think that, growing up with a lot of all those attached fears and so forth, I think I got to the point where I decided that I was just going to continue my life and not give that any more airtime, so to speak.
Yes.
And I've got a very strong will and a very strong spirit, and I have a very deep spiritual faith as well. So I wanted to turn something bad into something good.
Yes.
I just didn't know which vehicle was going to be the vehicle to be able to do that until these events came along.
Right.
So I made sure that we had, I made sure I dealt with telling my mum, who in turn told my dad.
And how was he?
And I still to this day haven't heard a conversation about it from him.
Because he's been gut-wrenched.
Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't talk about it with him. I've talked about it with my kids.
Yes.
And, I've made them aware of that. But I also made a promise to myself that I wasn't going to wear it as a badge.
No.
I wanted to use that as a lever or to help someone else, but it wasn't my,
You didn't want people to feel sorry for you or anything like that.
Not at all.
You use it for a purpose to bring out women that have suffered, or children that have suffered from some form of molestation or whatever it is, to let them know that it's not their fault and they are worthy of being beautiful people, and to seek help and to have a conversation about it and not feel embarrassed and all those sorts of things, those emotions that actually come up. So creating those environments, creating the events and the environments for women, and you never know what stories women have. You never know what anyone has as a story. So you look at that, and if you can bring women together in an environment that is comfortable, and they can have a conversation, they may just have a conversation with somebody and start talking about it, which will start healing.
And that's really important. One of that event where I shared my story,
and everyone was in tears.
After that event, I had at least 6-7 women come up to me after and say
that's what's happened to them.
That's what happened to them, and that by me sharing my story, that they can now see that they don't need to live in that space anymore, that they can move on and make their life bigger and better and wondrous. And I determined that, and I thought, that happened to me for a purpose, okay? It wasn't nice, it's haunted me, it's upset me, it's all those things, but there must be a greater good. So I've used that to open up the highways and the byways, so to speak, for other women to feel not alone and to feel accepted. That's where that word accepted comes into our conversation. Because accepted means it's okay. I get that that happened to you.
And you're still okay.
And you're still okay.
And we like you.
And we like you. It doesn't matter. You don't need to convince us that you're a good girl.
Yes.
You are. That's something that happened.
Yes.
It's not your fault.
It's not you.
It's not you. It doesn't define you. It doesn't say this is who I am.
Yes.
It just is an episode, a chapter, a page, or even a dot. And that's how I learnt to overcome and be strong and carry on with what I know I can do and what I need to do.
And let it go.
And let it go. Just that,
But
like
she...
the song. And I won't start singing because everyone will just turn their radios off. But yeah, let it go.
Let it go.
They are magical words. Let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, we'll go to some sponsorship and we will be back in a moment.